at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and we're about to delve into the roster and find out who are going to be the 54 players playing in the 53-man roster.
Very interesting numbers combination there, but with new rules. The 49ers have a bunch of new flexible things they can do. They can keep an extra lineman,
Yes,
which bumps that roster from 53 to 54.
correct.
We also get to find out if we're going to be having to make early changes to our introduction graphic, because if any of these guys get cut, we got to change it up. I don't think we're going to do that to ourselves.
I sure hope not. That's a lot of work.
And who's up first?
Well, first up, we got to talk about these quarterbacks, and I can already tell that people are hanging on the edge of their seat to see which quarterbacks we're going to select and which quarterbacks are not going to make the team. One of these guys, we might have to wait till the end of the show to let you know if he's going to make it or not. Just kidding. But, I mean, first off, I think we all think Jimmy Garoppolo at this point is now officially going to make this roster and be the starting quarterback, barring Trey Lance blowing the socks off everyone with his intellect and being able to pick up this offense, which I think even the smartest of guys will struggle with. So Jimmy Garoppolo as QB1, of course Trey Lance, the heir apparent, at QB2, and then Nate Sudfeld is our third quarterback, and we all thought that he was the best option. You follow the money, he got the money, so we're going to go ahead and go with him. Plus, we just believe that as of right now, he's a better option than the two Joshes, Rosen and Johnson. Thank you. That's what we were thinking as far as quarterbacks. So that is the first three that make our roster. We're keeping three quarterbacks, which isn't different from what anything Kyle Shanahan has done in his tenure there.
Only 51 to go.
It's true. Only 51 more players to go.
Our mathematician Horst is all over today, as you can tell. We got some running backs next on this list. We got quite a few here. A nice little chunk of running backs, including Horst guy Trey Sermon. The running back breakdown is as follows. We got Raheem Mostert. You have Jeff Wilson Jr. You have Kyle the Juice Juszczyk, because he is a wonderful man. And yes, I know he's a fullback, but he still counts as a running back. Then, like we said before, you have Trey Sermon that's going to make the roster. And last but not least, the fifth running back on the list, gentlemen, Mr. Elijah Mitchell.
And I think what's interesting there is the guys that are cut, right?
Which is Hasty and Gallman.
Which is the big one. I think it was hard. It was harder for me to see Hasty go than it is Gallman, only because Gallman hasn't strapped it up for the 49ers, where Hasty has, and we think there's a lot of potential there. And these guys are going to get picked up if they get cut, but that's going to be one tough room, and it was one tough room to predict. I'm still not sure about it.
Yeah, we could definitely change our mind there after watching preseason.
Yeah, and also injuries might make this, impossible to predict, because, if one of those top guys that we have on there get injured, then one of these guys are going to slide in there. So
now another extremely difficult room was wide receivers. So we kept 6, starting with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Hurd, Travis Benjamin, Richie James. The one that might surprise some of you is Juwan Jennings. Jalen Hurd, we are assuming is going to be healthy. We are counting that as such. The last hard decision was basically Juwan Jennings and Mohamed Sanu. We went with youth and explosiveness.
Yeah, and it's a fair thing to consider and to think about, because there's a good chance that Kyle Shanahan is going to value that. I know that Mr. Mohamed Sanu has a lot of things that he brings to the table, but at the end of the day, Juwan Jennings very well could sneak in, and especially if he's healthy, have a very, very important role in this offense, especially down near the red zone. And what do you got for us for the linemen?
Yeah, for the linemen is another tough one. The offensive line, they've definitely added some youth, so there's some tough decisions, and then there's some not so tough decisions. The not so tough decisions is, of course, Trent Williams, Laken Tomlinson, Alex Mack, Daniel Brunskill, Mike McGlinchey, and Aaron Banks. I think those ones everyone thinks.
I think those 6 are locks.
Yeah, those are absolute locks. Which ones start, I think, is a little bit more, of a battle between Brunskill and Banks. but I think those guys are locks. And then you got your backups, and you got to have Colton McKivitz, Justin Skule, and Jalen Moore. And I think the fact that they used a 5th-round pick on Jalen Moore means they're probably going to, use him. They also, used Colton McKivitz. So those are guys that, they definitely have a high grade on. You don't usually get rid of 5th-round picks early on. Skule, I think, is the most bubble guy of all of them.
Agreed.
And, of course, we had to cut Tom Compton, and we had to cut Sean Coleman. And Coleman, I know they had high expectations for, but he sat out, last year. And I think some of these guys are just a little bit better than him, and they could possibly beat him. I think they're going to beat him out in camp.
I think there's also a definite chance, though, of Coleman beating.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think both of them make the roster because the extra spot is, for a lineman. Sean Coleman. I thought you said Colton.
No, of Sean Coleman beating out Skule.
Okay.
Could happen. What about Jalen Moore?
He's a guy that I don't think you'd be able to keep on your practice squad, so I think you have to keep him up.
You used a 5th-round pick on him. I don't think you're cutting him.
There's a good chance. He's almost a safe bet, but not 100% because you don't know exactly how everyone else is going to pan out. But now we're going to switch gears. No, we're not going to switch gears because now we're going to talk about tight ends. Tight ends are the next thing on the list.
Yeah.
And these are important because we feel the tight end position might be one of the weaker positions. And after having to make the decisions that we made, I know I don't feel great about the tight end position other than the first guy on the list, George Kittle, who's obviously going to be on that list. He's obviously going to have success. After that, we got Ross Dwelley, and then we have Charlie Warner.
Yeah.
And those are your tight ends. Those 3 are the main cogs in the wheel at the tight end position.
I think all 3 of us would agree that there's a very good chance that there's a name not on the roster among the 3 guys when we get to camp.
It could be. They could add an extra guy.
A veteran.
Yeah, this would be a difference from last year. Last year they kept 4 tight ends, because of, Jordan, and then they, had Warner that was the rookie. So, I think that would have been, the thing. You wonder if they're going to keep 4. They obviously don't have 4 NFL-ready guys right now. They have 3, so it has to be 3.
Okay, next would be the defensive line. We have them keeping Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Kinlaw, D. Ford, Samson Ebicom, and DJ Jones. We have those guys as the locks. I know some of you are going to be a little shocked at Ford. To us, it's really looking like he's coming back.
Yeah.
And if he does, he's a lock. Then next we have Arden Key, Zach Kerr, Maurice Hurst, and Kevin Givens. The battle there at the end was Givens over guys like Jordan Willis and Katavius Street.
Yeah, and I think we call into question Givens is off the field right now. If Givens didn't have off the field issues, I don't think this would be as big of a concern because Givens has played fantastic, but I think that's what you're looking at and wondering because they did bring Jordan Willis back, and Jordan Willis is a good player, and he improved, and I think he has a lot of potential. I just wonder if he can beat those guys out. And with the signings of Key and Hurst, you're like, I don't know. Kerr was a big-time signing. So this defensive line is stout, and it's going to be hard to make this unit. I don't know who's going to make it, but it's going to be fun.
That is for sure. It's going to be really, really difficult to know who goes where and who does what.
Yeah.
It really is difficult. After the D-line, we got the linebacking core. Obviously, you have one Fred Warner. You have one Dre Greenlaw. Oh man, Greenlaw. That was impressive. He was raw as a rookie, but now he's coming into his own as a veteran. Then after that, you got Azeez Al-Shaair. You have Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. And the newest addition, Nathan Jerry, to that group. Those are the 5 guys that we're rolling with. Those are the 5 guys we think have the best chance to make the roster in our way, way too early 54-man roster predictions. How do you guys feel about that linebacking core?
I think it's real solid. I think it really is. I think the question is who's going to be starting next to Warner, and Greenlaw.
Yeah.
Is it going to be Nathan Jerry? Is it going to be Al-Shaair? Flanagan-Foles is going to add in the special teams game, and that's usually what you keep that extra linebacker for. But I think that's going to be the real battle is who starts there. Also, keep an outside eye on, them bringing, somebody else back. But I think Jerry started 19 of, 23 games. So he's definitely able to go and start and play, and he's a veteran leader that can make some big-time plays. So I'm down with him. I think he's a nice upgrade there. And next up is the cornerback position, which is another highly contested, position group. Having to cut some players that we actually like. But this is what we think the 49ers are going to do, barring any more signings or any other movement, is, of course, Jason Verrett and Emmanuel Mosley are both going to be there. K'Wan Williams will be manning the nickel, so he's obviously going to make the team. They used a third-round pick on Ambry Thomas. He's making the roster. You don't cut a third-round pick. Diamador Lenore, because he's the heir apparent to K'Wan Williams, the understudy. He'll be learning. He'll also play in the dime. And then this was the big one, is coming down to whether it was Tim Harris or Dante Johnson, and we went ahead and went with Dante Johnson because he has more flexibility, being able to play on the outside and the inside, and that veteran leadership to be able to do both. I thought was what kind of tipped us as far as going with him over Tim Harris, even though Harris might be the better player, as far as more potential. We still think that Dante Johnson would outwork him and win the spot.
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations we talked about. This isn't a championship level team. You would go with Harris over Johnson, potential. But this is a team that's trying to win the Super Bowl this year. So if one of those guys go down, you're much more comfortable playing Dante Johnson in a game than Tim Harris.
Yeah,
that is correct, and that's the big thing at the end of the day is you gotta make sure you have the things you need to make that run for 6. Dante Johnson got the playing experience. He's got that experience. You're going to trust him out there maybe a little more than a Tim Harris. So I agreed with you guys on that. I felt that it was the best decision that we could make because we were starting to dwindle down on roster spots at that point. That was a real tough one. Horst, you got this last little bit here for us. The safeties. Is your boy going to make this 53, 54-man roster? We're going to find out right now, aren't we?
At safety, we kept 4. We kept Ward and Tart as the starters, and then we kept Tavares Moore and Heleno Hufanga as the backup. We have Hufanga beating out Marcel Harris, who's a veteran, but is very, very limited in coverage. I think most of us thought when they picked Hufanga in the 5th round, that is a better, younger, more athletic version of Marcel Harris. So I think that's why we have him going over Marcel. That was a pretty tough one too. A lot of guys in there that seem like good football players.
Absolutely, and at the end of the day, this was this way too early. It's way too early. Listen, I get that, but it was difficult. It's difficult this early just because you don't know how some of these guys are going to look in terms of, with training camp, preseason games, etc. And so it's just one of those things where all our minds are open to change. And if this 53, 54-man roster as it currently stands could definitely shift and some pieces could definitely be moved, but the core pieces are going to be there. At the end of the day, it's going to be that back end of the roster and some of the other names that we maybe cut off a little early that who knows, with training camp, mini camps, OTAs, with a full preseason, a lot of things could happen. Some of these veteran guys who are hungry and sat out could end up playing their way into a roster spot and bouncing some of these young guys. Who knows? At the end of the day, we know one thing, though, and that's the 49ers are going to put the best 54 together to go try and win another Super Bowl.
And it's fun to talk about. It really is. These battles have been set up through free agency and the draft, and now it's time to talk about who's going to win these battles and how this team is going to take shape. So discussing it is fun, and I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about this. I'm sure, we'll talk more about it when training camp starts, and then, of course, before they announce, the final 53 or 54-man roster, we'll have another one where we'll really, lock it down and try to get this right. Last year we were pretty close on hitting on all these guys. It was tough to predict who was going to be going, how many tight ends they're going to keep and all that. But, in the end, I think that this team is going to be set and ready to win a championship. And that's what we're really looking at. This could be the best roster they've put together, which is scary to say. And that's scary for the NFC West. And it leaves us a lot of hope and a lot of, appreciation for what this front office has done. So I'm excited for the season. I'm excited to have all these great conversations all the way through the offseason because it's a lot of fun. And this is why I love football.
The amount of solid players that we have getting cut off this football team tells you how good this roster is. Because I would say we cut 10 guys that are going to be on other rosters. Active rosters.
Probably,
Easily.
And maybe more.
Yeah. I mean, this team is loaded. The talent's loaded. John Lynch has done one heck of a job at assembling a team. Peters as well. That entire front office. The coaching staff's going to put the best 54 in place. And who knows, maybe the pasta man Alfredo Gutierrez works out and it's technically 55 because he doesn't eat up a roster spot. It's a freebie. So who knows, maybe we have a 55-man roster. You just don't know. But that's why you got to hit that subscribe button right now and hit that notification bell and that like button. So that way, when the 54 and the 53-man roster does come out, you're going to know right away. Did the pasta man make it? Is it really a 55-man roster? You're not going to want to miss on any of that great content. And let us know down below, did we cut someone that we shouldn't have cut? Do you think we should have kept someone that we didn't? We want to hear from you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of conversation to have, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very opinionated on who should make it. I think there's an argument for people at a lot of positions. I don't expect people to agree with us 100%. In fact, I mean, we didn't agree 100%. We had to kind of come to agreements because this is tough decisions, and a lot of players are close. You're just trying to piece together the best one. So that'll be a lot of fun later on when we really break down what our 53s would actually look like and stuff. Because this team is stacked, loaded, 90 men just ready to go to war, and the 49ers have a chance to win a Super Bowl.
Sorry, Josh Rosen needed.
You are officially now out of time. And you know what? That's okay, because while you may be out of time, the 49ers fans and the 49ers Cutback community, you aren't. And until next time, you stay safe.
Remember the right way.
It's always the 49ers way.